Lost you, Rick.
So recording is in progress. So, hi, this is Rick with Spinal Network. I'd like to welcome everybody who is on the call, and for those of you who are watching the recording, welcome as well. So today's webinar, which is part of our Giving Tuesday campaign and kind of a launch to our Giving Tuesday campaign, is on recruiting and retaining caregivers. And we have two presenters today. We have Rusty Krumm and we have Bill White. And I'll let each of them give a little bit of background on themselves before we launch into this. So Rusty, why don't you start?
My name is Rusty Krumm. I'm a C5, C6 quadriplegic, injured in 1969. So at the age of 12.
Bill?
My name is Bill White. I'm a C4-5. I was injured March of 2016. So I'm kind of a newbie, at least doing the chair, but I've been recruiting for 30 years. So I've applied some of my professionalism into caregiving recruiting, and that's what I'll talk about today.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. And Rusty, can you just where you work?
I work for the San Diego Community College District with the Workability 3 program, which is a program that works with the students who are with department rehab, and they're also in the community college district, helping them with employment issues, such as helping with applications, teach them how to talk to employers, communication skills. A lot of them I'll meet out in the field and just walk around and try to meet managers and then go fill out the application. That gets them a leg up and gets them comfortable heading in the right direction. Also, some of them, mostly a lot of them transfer to four-year universities. So make sure they have a vocational goal too, whatever it likes. One of my students right now is in the programming. So he has an internship. It's ZENSE. It's a diabetes research place up in, I think, up in Sereno Valley area. So he's doing that. So there's a lot of different variety. It's just not all entry level. There's a lot of professional opportunities. Just depends. We meet students. I always say we meet them where they're at, and then we try to go from there. We don't try to. I'm no longer putting a square peg in a round hole. I try to figure out who they are, what they are, and what they're capable of doing, and try to talk to them about where they can go.
Okay. Okay. Well, to start this off, caregivers, for those folks who are using caregivers and don't have a need for caregivers, it can be an extremely frustrating process when you're looking to recruit a caregiver. And when you find a good caregiver, it's how do you retain that caregiver? And the reason that we have Rusty and Bill presenting is they've both been successful in recruiting and retaining their caregivers. So they're going to share with us some of that magic. So I don't know if you've said how you want to go about this as far as who talks first, but I'm going to go with Rusty just because of longevity. And
Age before beauty too. So.
there you go.
So, hey, you're on a roll today, huh, Bill?
So,
you got that coffee, afternoon coffee in you, huh?
So Rusty, take it away.
All right. Yeah. Rick asked me to do some things on caregiving. It's always been a sort of it's probably one of my worst things that I do. Or one of my most difficult things. I always say when I'm in the process of hiring caregivers, if I get through that process without have to make a bunch of amends, I had a good time. I did all right, because I get really, I get stressful, I get irritable, I get, I'm all over the map when it comes to that. I wish I could tell you it was a walk in the park, but it's not. If I was just hiring someone to mow my grass, it'd probably be a lot easier. but I'm not. I'm hiring someone. It's really intimate. It's personable. It's very very intimate. I probably have more closeness with my caregivers than anything else, you know. I can tell you a lot of what I want to share today is like, I'm no expert. I think everybody has their own process. They all have they learn. I always say we learn by making our own mistakes or watching other people make mistakes or what works too, you know. So we always, you know, and I gotta tell you, like, this is one thing that I really learned is that, and this is like through my whole process, is that I have had I've been in some very abusive, lousy relationships with caregivers. And it wasn't so much the caregivers, it was that I was not very good to me either. You know what I mean? I didn't have, I'm from New Jersey. My support group out here wasn't very strong. I didn't have, I was very codependent on other people. And so I always say I wasn't well. I mean, I'm probably still not well, but I'm better than when I was in my 20s and 30s. You know, when you're drinking a lot, you know, you hired a caregiver that drinks a lot, you know. Yeah, you know, so when you know, so that was my theory. But so I haven't had that problem in a long time. I've been pretty stable. I'll tell you, I've had a caregiver for 27 years. I call her my angel. She's been through thick and thin. I talked to her this year, is like probably the first Thanksgiving that she's been off in 27 years.
Wow.
First Thanksgiving that she hasn't worked in 27 years. I've been real fortunate there. I have other longtime caregivers that are my life. They don't work for me, but we do still have relationships. I have a couple now that's probably been only 3 or 4 years. We always argue about this because, you know, I don't know about you, caregiving is like my pet, you know, like it gets old before I know it. You know what I mean? I could have a caregiver for 10 years and I feel like it was just yesterday, you know. Like, how long you been working for me? She goes, 10 years. No way, you know. But they've been around a long time. What works for me is that, and this is what I've done, and I think I always try to tell other people, I don't like to be so dependent on one person. Even though that one has been with me 27 years, I am very dependent on her. But what I do is I hire 3 and 4 part-time people. And all my buddies at chairs tell me, how do you do that? Well, that's the goal I set out to do. When I advertise, it's part-time. So the expectations are, I recruit the ones that just want part-time work. Because most people will want like full-time, and we get a certain amount of hours through in-home support services. So they want the most of those hours, and I don't. I says, I can give you 4 in the morning, 4 at night, 4 or 5 in the morning or at night. And that helps me. It helps me not, it gives the caregivers a break. You know, they don't burn out. I mean, then if I have 3 or 4, I can interchange those parts a lot. You know, if they want to go to a wedding or they're sick, I can get one of the other caregivers to fill in for them. So there's a lot of flexibility there, and it's a lot of management, but it seems to work for me. I don't like to have caregivers that are like just 1 or 2. I had it in the 80s and 90s. I had 1 or 2, and I got into bad relationships. It was like I was so afraid to lose them that I wasn't making good decisions. You know what I mean? You know, and now that I have 3 or 4, if I lose one, I'm temporarily screwed, but I'm not permanently screwed. And what I mean by that is I don't have to panic real quick. I don't have to make irrational decisions. I don't have to make decisions like that are based on fear, where if I don't get somebody, I'm not gonna be able to get up. I have like enough people. And here's the big deal too, is like, I don't have like family here. So when I'm out of a caregiver, I'm pretty out of something. I'm out of it, you know. It was like, I don't have a dad or a mom or a brother or sister. And even if I did live next to them, I don't think they would show up, because they're at the age now that it's even hard for them. That's the other thing I want to talk about is that the older I get, the more care I need, and I don't get extra hours for that. You know what I mean? So that's become a little bit of more of a difficult trying to manage that. You know, I need, you know, some days because of skin issues, I have to go down in the afternoon. But I'm real fortunate, because Bill, as Rick shared about my work, is that I get paid, so I have money. So the state pays for most of my caregivers, but I can pay like $200 a week for a caregiver, and that gives me more latitude. That gives me more, you know, if I need some help in the afternoon, or or if I had a personal issue that I needed taken care of, I'd make a phone call and I pay them. I usually pay them like $20 an hour, usually a minimum of 2 hours. So it's $40 I pay them to come over and help me out. So it's been a real juggling. The most recent is, and I've, we're talking about social media and stuff, is that I'm involved in a very progressive, I work for the community college district. So when it comes to social media, new things, we're encouraged to try it, or do it, not encouraged, we're required to do it, matter of fact. So what I learned is that I this year when I got a notice that they were going to ask the caregivers to be vaccinated by the state. Well, I panicked because my girl was 27 years. She's Afro-American and she doesn't want to be vaccinated. She just doesn't trust anybody or anything. And I'm all choice. It's your choice, But that puts me in a bad situation too, because you don't want to get vaccinated. I'm not going to find somebody to cover for you. So what I had to do is put an ad in the paper to cover for her, but I really didn't want to get rid of her. So I started doing some letter writing and I started reaching out and I called the union. And the union informed me, and I'm just going on what the union informed me, and I'm holding my breath. I have a plan B, but it'll only be temporary. But the union informed me that the only vaccination card that they have to show is to the employer of record, and that's me. And I have no problem saying I saw a vaccination card. I have not gone, I'm sorry. I do have values and principles, but this principle here is like, she's good. She's been taking care of me 27 years. She wears a mask. She washes her hands. She's pretty cautious. I wish she would get vaccinated, but the bottom line is, it's a girl that's been with me forever and she does a great job and I don't want to get rid of her forever. Nonsense. And it's not nonsense. That's her choice. And it's my choice if I use her or not. So that's, I don't, want to make it sound nonsense, but it's just her choice and my choice. I think it should be that way. So I went through that, but to get back on I had to start advertising. And I have a lady who used to, for years, always help me out. Her name's Holly. She's with a reader, and she'd always put an ad in the paper. And then, or I'd go into Craigslist and do ads on Craigslist. And they were pretty good. I've always got, but as social media and stuff got a little bit more involved, I think less people are getting their information through like the reader. I think it's like a dinosaur. So people, and Craigslist, I didn't go on there. I don't know why this time, but I reached out. I have I don't know if you guys have Nextdoor. It's your neighborhood app that tells the happenings in your neighborhood. So I reached out on Nextdoor and told them, longtime resident, City Heights, looking for a caregiver. If you got anybody, please put the message out there. Let me know. I also went through Facebook, and I went through Facebook and I put it out there. I put it on my Facebook. I put it on there, and word of mouth. I got to tell you, I got a lot of hits, and that's usually like word of mouth is pretty good because they were usually by friends who knew somebody, which really made me feel a little bit more comfortable about it and helped me out a lot. So I hired 2 people. One was a girl that was a friend of an exchange student I have here. And the other was a friend of mine that saw it on Facebook and he gave me a lead. And another person gave me a couple of leads to caregivers that he had, but they weren't suitable for me. And I thought about that. And I don't think they're suitable for quads. They were a little bit older. They were, I'm a little bit heavier and older myself, but I don't like to put a strain on older people that don't, it's dangerous, it's because this job is very physical, it's, I have a Hoyer lift and all that, but it still requires some oomph, So I went through Facebook. Rick put an ad on Spinal Network page. I'm there. My boss did like a TikTok video, like a video. I was getting out of my van. I said, "Hi, my name's Rusty. I'm looking for a quad. I'm a quadriplegic. I'm looking for caregivers." And I put the morning and the evenings. And if you're interested, please get a hold of me. I did that because I wanted to go through the career centers at the colleges because I thought that would be a good outlet too. to me, and Bill will probably share this to you, is there's no stone that goes unturned. You know what I mean? Like, to me, I'm talking about, if I have to, I'm gonna go to church just to get a caregiver. and I don't go to church, you know what I mean? Like, hey, I had flyers made up. I was handing them out in Costco. You know, I saw somebody, I said, hey, you know, I started engaging with them. I go, you know anybody? You know, because one time I hired a girl, believe it or not, she was a stalker at Smart and Final. She says, I says, hey, you ever done any caregiving? She goes, yeah, a long time ago. I said, would you like to get back into it? She goes, maybe. I said, well, here's a flyer. So I give out flyers. I have no shame in my game. I don't care, you know, if I find them like engaging, they have a good smile. I look for more personality than I do for skill level. I think, you know, skill level is not that important to me, because this is one of these things that you have to train them like you would like to have it done. But also, I can tell you, this is a funny thing, is when I'm training the caregiver, my other caregivers train them. And the funny thing is, none of them do it the same. I go, this is gonna drive me crazy, because I'm OCD, anal retentive, whatever you want to call it. And whenever I get a new caregiver, I have to give them like the space to be able to do it like they need to do it. I mean, I can walk them through the process, tell them how to do it, but they're going to find their own way to be able to do it easier. They just, you know, each and every one of them. And it's always funny, because every one of the girls I have do it differently. It used to drive me nuts, but now I just go, here, we're about to go through this again. And so I know that, I'm accepting of that. That's another thing. I try to give the girls, like, they want their birthdays off. I try to give them their birthdays off. They want a holiday. Like, I will, like, tomorrow, Thursday's Thanksgiving. I find out what their schedule is, because I live alone. I don't have family out here. I go to a friend's house for dinner around 1 or 2. I'm done by 3 or 4. So if they want to throw me in bed, because look, I have nothing to do. I'm going to tell you right now. I can get in bed 3 or 4, rest my body, watch Netflix, and you know, and let them go have dinner with their family. You know, so they don't have to come get me in bed at 8 or 9. I do a lot of that because I just try to please their schedule as much as my schedule. I also, like I say, the best thing I ever did was have set schedules for caregivers. I have set schedules, but I also say there's a caveat there. There has to be some flexibility, because they're going to need it and I'm going to need it. Like, I go to Aztecs basketball games sometimes, you know, and I'm a season ticket holder now sometimes. And I always have to say, hey, I like to go. Is that okay? I always ask their permission. I don't tell them I'm going. They got to do it. I ask them, is it okay if I go to the Aztec game tonight? They go, sure, no problem. I says, I'll text you when I'm leaving the building. So when I'm leaving the building, they'll come to my house and they'll meet me here. So that's how I do it with them. I always try to find balance. I always try to be real fair. I mean, like, really fair. I mean, I go out of my way on fairness. And that means, like, with their space, with their time, with their, you know, schedule, whatever, you know, I try to be that. But also, like, the one thing they will complain about is that it's a part-time job, but I always say, we do that going in, you know. I mean, and I always say, if you really want to work hard, I think I know a couple other quads that need help. and that usually, like, you know, slows them down a little bit. They just want me for more hours. I really don't have any more hours to give them. But I take them. I have one caregiver that took me on vacation in New Jersey. I paid her cash. You know, I paid her $120 a day. I was gone for 9 days. I paid her for that. I paid her, what I do is pay her half before I go and then half when I got home. So that way she has money she can spend on the vacation. And then I feed her. I go, I'll feed you once a day. I'll give you $120. I'll feed you once a day, right? But I usually feed them all the time. It doesn't matter. I mean, they're really my caregivers are a big part of my life, but they're not a big part of my life. I'm home or away from them. I mean, they're only in my life for like 2, 3, 4 hours a day, and then I have 4 of them, so they shift out in and out. So that's how I've been doing it. I have no complaints. I mean, I've been extremely fortunate and really blessed in the last 20 some years. I haven't had, you know, I haven't got ripped off. And I had that when I was in my 20s and my 30s, man. You know, I wasn't in the best of shape, and the people I was getting in my life weren't in the best of shape. And this is if you're in a chair and you're hiring caregivers, you're in a very vulnerable spot, man. There used to be a time where a lot of people were coming to my house. They were from Donovan, you know what I mean? Because they didn't have any other words. They didn't have any other words they'd go. They knew they'd get in the caregiving business. It's very easy business to get into. And we're so sometimes desperate, you know, we'll overlook stuff like that. We gotta be real careful because it's not, it doesn't attract all the most qualified people all the time. But I can tell you, I've been real blessed with a lot of good angels and a lot of good people, you know, and I think that's because I'm healthy and that's what, you know, you attract what you are, you know. So it's been pretty good. It's been a pretty good run. So Bill, if you want to add anything there, I don't know if that helped any.
Sure.
I know you've all been through it, you know, the good, bad, and indifferent. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah. Thank you, Rusty.
Yeah.
It said I haven't been injured that long, 5 years, but so I'm not. Most people I know have been in the chair a lot longer than me, so I don't know more about caregivers than you guys, but a lot less. But I do know about recruiting. I've been in the recruiting business for 30 years. Companies hire us to find specific people. So I applied some of those basic principles when I look for caregivers, and I've had great success. I have 4 caregivers. I have a live-in, and you know, I got them all through Craigslist, or like Ryan, my main caregiver, he was my CNA in the hospital when I was in the hospital. And then my night girl was through an agency when I first got out. She was with an agency and she came to work for me directly. So, but you know, I've had great success with Craigslist. Rusty did point on nursing schools, CNA certification programs, but I suggest not sending in the nursing schools. Do both, like no rock unturned, no stone unturned, like Rusty said. Send it to the professors because the career centers are more in line with getting them jobs when they graduate versus getting them jobs while they're going to school. So professors are the best people to reach out to, and I do it in my job. Reach out to for referrals, whether in his class or something like that, because they get extra credits for them if they work for in a home health environment. Also, like I said, now the ads I run, I'm a lot more personable. Rusty, he pointed out that too. Describe yourself, what you like to do, not just what you need. I always put, you know, I like going to movies. I like dining out. I like adventure. I mean, I don't have to put up, will you go skydiving with me in the ad? No, but I like adventure too. But people come to work for you. They're not coming to work for your company or anything. They're coming for you. So, you know, establish interest in that part. 90% of any hire, I don't care what it is, how good it looks on paper, it's chemistry. So when I talk to somebody, I don't bring up money. First of all, I have to, what are they looking for? And whatever they say, I say, now if they're asking for $40 an hour or something like that, it's different, but ask, what are they looking for? And then say, well, look, everything's negotiable. I had my caregiver, Damon, who Rick knows, a few of you guys know, he wanted $30 an hour. And so I said, well, it's negotiable. He came and he met me, and within 30 minutes, he said, I'll take 25. Then I said, well, I'm gonna get only paid 22 to start off. But if it works out well in 90 days, we'll talk about, you know, bumping that up to 25. So always do that. So if they're worth the wait and go, you'll come up with the $3 extra somewhere. Cut back on something, you know, I cut back on my bar bill. No, just kidding. But so establish the interest, talk about money, flexible hours. Mine do 10 hours a day, my daytime, Brian and Damon. We go out a lot. I'll even have a beer with them every once in a while. And then I have a live-in. Now that's a good way to go. If you have the room to put someone, room and board is always a good pay. It's always a supplemental pay. So I have a live-in. I give her room and board, and she's my night. She works nights, and then she's right here to fill in for anybody that takes off, or needs off, or doesn't can come in. And I give her a very small salary week to week. So it works out great. She's, especially during the pandemic. And she's always available. I mean, always. And, Damon call in sick, or Ryan has to take a day off for family reasons or something, very rarely. She's right there to fill in. And I only have to pay her minimal a week, and everything else is through room and board. But it might be a way to go. Then there's a question I always ask after I meet someone. Even if you don't want to do it, would you be opposed to a background check? They say no. It's either maybe they want to work under the radar, or something's wrong, or maybe they got fired for stealing or something like that. Even if you don't go through with it, always I suggest asking that question, because if you get a flat no, it's usually a red flag. And like I said, everything's negotiable. But I think establishing interest is first and foremost before you start talking about money or anything like that. Establishing chemistry. My caregivers are also, they help me a lot of work. They do a lot of typing for me for my job. So I give them incentives based on how good I do at work. I give them bonus incentives, more than a few times a year. And that works. They really get excited about going out to lunch too. And Damon brings up, we were talking to Randy Haynes last night on the phone, and he's having trouble getting a caregiver. And Damon brought up, when we go out, Bill pays for everything. He always picks up the check. And which it should be. I mean, they should spend money to take care of you. But it's fun. I just try and make it fun, that's all. But talk about yourself in the ad, be as detailed as possible. Fun-loving, active, still a zest for life. I like going for roles, but also like going to movies, dining out. And it all comes about in the chemistry. I can't say any more than that. Meet the person. Sometimes their expectations go down and yours goes up based on the meeting. And that's 90% of any hire.
Hey, Bill, who pays for your caregivers?
Well, I have IHSS, and then
Which just in case anybody doesn't know, is in-home support services.
Yeah, and but that only covers partial, and then I pay out of pocket. But actually, they get paid through my company, so I'm blessed. But it's my money; it's just coming out of my company name.
Mm-hmm.
So, but out of pocket. And like I said, I do incentives. I save a lot of money having to live in.
Yeah.
I don't really have to pay a night person. I do have a night person. She works a few days a week only because Rosalind needs a break by living. And also Sarah's been with me from day one. Same with Ryan, one of my daytime. He's been with me since I got out of the hospital. He was my CNA in the hospital, matter of fact.
Okay.
Rosalind's been there like 2 years. And Damon's been with me about a year.
Okay. So retention is really good. Yeah.
It all depends what your needs and wants are. If you're on a very limited budget, you can only pay IHSS wages, perhaps you can supplement them somehow.
Mm-hmm.
You said a perfect example would be live in and have her and pay her IHSS wages. And if you need other specific care, like somebody stronger, like she gets me up, she transfers me and everything. But it's strictly nighttime, unless she has to fill in for one of the daytime guys.
Okay. Hey, Rusty, who pays for yours? You're muted.
You're muted, Rusty. You're on mute, Rusty.
Same system. I'm in the same system.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's IHSS and then out of pocket for anything, or?
IHSS is the provider of the Medi-Cal pays for the services. So that's another thing too, is that, you have to qualify for Medi-Cal to get the caregiving service. And sometimes that can be a little tricky and icky too. I qualify under the 250% working disabled program.
Yeah.
So you have to go down and make sure that you're, under a certain amount of limit. It's like 60 some $1,000. And then, and then there might be, I don't, look, the wizard behind the curtain, I don't know, man. I've been getting away with it for a couple of years now, but for years I was paying 250, but for years I've been paying zero, you know what I mean? So, and I didn't say anything when I was paying 250, and I'm not going to say anything when I'm paying zero.
Rusty, just remember, we are recording this.
I know, but I didn't do anything wrong. Matter of fact, I was scared, and I was scared, and so because somebody recertified me and it was zero, and I have to go down there and talk to my caseworker, and I went down there, and the damn, it was like Cesar Chavez holiday. I go, oh shit. So I go back there again, and my caregiver and my caseworker was on vacation. So I said, look, I'm gonna do it the third time. If it doesn't work, I'm gonna just let it go. So I went down there a third time. She was there. She came out and I says, here, I got this note here, and I'm not sure if it's accurate, and I didn't go in great details like I'm the expert on this thing. I just told her, I don't know if there's something wrong here because I don't have to pay no premium. I didn't tell her, for the last 10 years, I've been paying 250, right? I just said, I don't know, there might be something wrong with this piece of paper. Do you think there is? And she took it in a back, and she came back. She gave me thumbs up. She goes, no, perfectly okay. Enjoy yourself. I'm like, so I've been under the radar for.
I want to point something out on the workability program. You don't have to work for a company. You could like have your neighbor write a letter saying you take the trash out or something like that.
Oh
like,
yeah,
up to like $40 a month, and then you're eligible to get that extra money in your bank. So
yeah, it's a pretty low bar, and what he's talking about is employment's any money that you make, and you can make money babysitting, dog sitting,
exactly.
collecting cans.
It's like $20 a month.
Yeah, collecting cans. I mean, so it's I mean, it is what it is. It's a system. So, but to tap into it, you just gotta be able to do that. And otherwise, you don't get that system. You don't get the caregiving system unless you're like broke. And when I mean broke, I mean like no joke broke. Yeah. I mean, like I'm talking about Section 8. I'm talking about, you have to be in all the systems then, you know what I mean? But, but you can find a way around that.
Dominic, who's with us, is I'm going to ask Dominic if you would unmute and share, because Dominic, you use an agency, if I remember correctly. So, well,
Dominic, wake up, Dominic.
And I went to unmute, and I'm thinking, I don't know if I can unmute, but I can ask him to unmute.
Dominic, wake up, unmute.
He's not there.
Well, he might be
Indisposed.
Yeah. So he'll come back he'll let us know when he's back, and we'll ask that question. Rusty, you mentioned earlier up here he is. Dominic.
All right, Rick. Yes. It's kind of hard when I can't reach the screen.
Yeah, I know. And I was trying to unmute you over here.
Oh, you should have, darn it.
I should have just left it alone and not muted.
Don't worry about it.
Anyway, so you utilize an agency, is that correct?
I do. So I get 24-hour care. That's what I need. Being a C3, C4 ventilator dependent quad.
Mm-hmm.
In 8 hours is through IHSS, just like rest in bills, and then the other 16 hours is covered through Medicare, Medi-Cal, and they only will pay for LVNs. And so they require that agency takes care of that, and everything, because Medicare pays the agency, and that's how it works. So I do not need to hire the nurses that I get through the agency. I just need to find the agency that can accommodate my services, and has enough nurses, because nurses are short right now, even,
right.
LVNs. I mean, a lot of LVNs want to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, home health is a totally different situation. You
Gotcha.
know, and so it's a short and all that, but so I meet the agency, I talk to them, so that way they know what my needs are. You know, when I went to school, they knew someone needed to drive. When I went to work, someone needed to drive. You know, someone needed to help me with everything and all that kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, so it's like Bill and Rusty were saying, it's a fit. You know, obviously LVNs are medically knowledgeable, so that's not an issue. You know, I mean, granted, you have people out there that aren't as knowledgeable and all that, but it's about chemistry, you know, who I get along with and all that. Because the way my nurse is, I have 2 8-hour shifts a day. So I'm with that person 8 hours a day. Right?
And they're with you.
I don't get, yeah, they're with me. Right? Yeah, which is probably even worse, right? So yeah, so it's more of a fit, you know, and so that's what's more important to me. You know, and that's what the agency realizes also. So they know, I mean, I've been with my agency presence for about 27 years right now. So they know me, you know, and so they, well, let's say the scheduler, you know, she trusts me and she trusts her judgment, my judgment, and she won't send someone that she wouldn't want at her house, you know. So it's the same situation, you know, you just want a good fit and everything. So,
Yeah. Okay.
Dominic, would it be okay
Yes.
to ask what the agency pays their caregivers? Do you know, have a,
so Medicare is, they get, I think they get 23 or 5.
yeah, and we're
23
asking,
or 25, so yeah.
yeah, on the in-home support services, they're only have to give them $14.50 an hour.
Exactly.
See, that's another issue that we have. It's a, you know, there's like, we are, man, like we're below the blow, you know what I mean? Like it's horrible. I mean, and I don't know why we can't like find a way to advocate for better conditions, you know what I mean? I mean, you know, as far as I'm concerned, we're saving them money. We're not nursing home, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I know, it's a big problem with a lot of people. Some people double up hours or for the PSS and stuff like that.
But you're doubling up hours, but then you're losing your care. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You still need care. I mean, you know, especially if you have skin issues or you're sick, you know, and now you're like, you know, you're compromising your health and well-being. It's a horrible thing to, you know, deal with.
Yeah. Rusty, you mentioned early on in your presentation about your support system and so outside of how important is your support system outside of the caregiver with regard to caregiving? I mean, did that make sense? You know, your support system in your life.
Yeah.
Does that have any impact on your relationship with your caregiver? You know, does it strengthen your relationship with your caregiver by having a strong personal support system?
Well, I think if you have a strong support system, then you're a lot healthier person. So it does make that relationship a little bit easier. You know, when I talk about healthy, you have a healthy outlook, you have a healthy attitude, you have a healthy respect for other people. So, you know, if your support group is good, but here's what I learned too, you know, I talk to my sister, she's an RN. So I go to her whenever I want some medical advice or whatever. She, you know, make her feel good that she's smart. Every time I go to her, I go, how'd you know that? She goes, you do know I was a nurse, don't you? I go, oh yeah, all right. But what the deal is, like when I was young, I had a support group. I had a big group. I had a lot of different people in my life, and they usually knew somebody was young and could probably need a job. Now that I'm old, that my support system's old, and there is nobody in that system that can do the work. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. So it's a little bit like, you know, I mean, look, they're saying a lot of prayers, they're doing all that other stuff. They're like, hang in there. They're, you know, give me encouragement. But as I gotten older, the ability to tap into my support group for any kind of caregiving needs is not very good. I do have people that will go grocery shopping with me for nothing, you know, like we'll go to lunch or whatever, but I don't do that often, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just an excuse. It's an excuse to get together more,
Yeah.
you know, but than it is to get something, you know, because it's just, I don't feel right about all that, you know, I could get my own stuff, but yeah, it's,
So retaining caregivers, there's a downside to retaining caregivers if you retain them for several years, because they're aging along with you, and they're going to get to a point where, and I think you had made mention of that, where now you're a little cautious about that person, you know, performing the same duties that they used to do.
the one I've had for 27 years, she definitely needs a knee replacement, but she's not going to go down, you know. She's not going down without a fight, man. She's just one of those people, you know what I mean? I don't know when it's going to happen, but I had another caregiver who's been with me for like 20 years, and she's had to have 2 knee replacements and a back surgery.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's she's it's not you know, you can go in any hospital and their workman's comp's high, man. You know, I mean, this is a very difficult field. You know, it's not an easy field. There's injuries all the time, so it's not like we own the market on that. But I'm finding as the older I get, the older the people work for me, that the more cautious I am about their health. You know.
Yeah.
So Rusty, you're a lot more like me, a lot more flexible as far as you'll train somebody. So caregiver trainee is a good ride to run. If you're willing to train somebody the way it is, they don't have to be like in the healthcare industry.
No, you know what, Bill? My qualification is not like that, you know.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
I mean, if they're responsible, they seem like good people. They're willing to learn. You know, I don't need healthcare. Matter of fact, this year when I was trying to put ads in the paper, because it's such a tight market, and what I mean by that is when we put an ad now on Craigslist, we're competing against all those healthcare agencies. They're all in there, and it's hard for us to compete with them because they offer a lot more benefits, they offer a lot more pay, and then we get bumped down the bottom of the line because our ads are always at the top. So it's a little bit more challenging. But what I thought about doing was putting my ad under like manufacturing, you know, warehouse, people who are in a field they probably don't want to be in anymore, but they could transfer over into a healthcare field, because really all I'm looking for is like personality and strength. You know, I mean, if they're strong and they got a good personality, I can do it.
Yeah, and if you also live in a development or like an area where there's a community, you know, people that are at day like housewives, maybe if they're right down the street from you, they're a lot more apt to go to work, getting some extra pay in the daytime.
Dude, for years, I used to always, man, laugh at all the other, I don't want to say laugh, but I live in the heart of City Heights, man. Like, you know what I mean? It was like, I could put an ad in the paper and there would be a few people showing up here because they all needed work around here, you know? But those days are not, those days are a little bit more thinner now, you know what I mean? I've never had, you know, like the reason I say this because like Art Garcia, he lives out in Lakeside. I said, who the hell wants to drive to Lakeside, Art? You know, he always, you know, I mean, it's out there, you know. But here, I have like I don't want them to have to take the bus to come get me. But I've had caregivers that have taken bus to come here, and they weren't bad. They knew how to take public transit. They got here in the morning. They left on the bus. That's, you know, so because I'm right here, I'm in the heart. You know, you can take the 7, you know, right through this area.
Hey, Rusty, would you mind if I showed you, remember the ad we put up on on the webpage?
Yeah, TikTok.
Here, keep talking. I'm going to bring that up.
No, I just met with my boss, and she does a lot of video stuff. So I, you know, put this out there on Facebook, LinkedIn. I put it on LinkedIn, Facebook, and also the reason I did it was because the career centers told me these kids don't even read ads anymore. You know that? They don't even take the time to read. They everything's like the video. You know, they have to see stuff on the computer to get their attention anymore. So I said I'll do whatever it takes to try to, you know, find them. You know, I mean, hey Bill, I had these flyers made up. I was getting ready to go put them on the telephone poles in the neighborhood. You know, I mean,
So here's something, and because of my conversation with Bill and with Rusty and with another gentleman, with Ed, we decided, let's give this a try. I mean, so it's Caregivers Wanted, and then, you know, the days and times are here, the duties are here, you know, and then any special notes, and then a contact information. And, you know, so, and there's a form, you know, if somebody wants to put their ad in here, there's a listing form. They just fill this out, they send it to me, and then we, you know, we put their ad up there. But Rusty's was the first because we wanted to give it a shot. Rusty talked about the ad that he put together, and so we wanted to connect that too. And you know, I mean, I thought it was a great ad. So I thought, oh, we need to put this up there as well. And then Rusty had talked about you know, the video.
those are the flyers. They were the flyers I was handing out in Costco and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Rusty put together a
Nine.
video, and you know, we don't, you know, we don't need to go through the whole thing, but
My name is Rusty. Thank you for looking at my ad. I'm personally looking for caregivers for Monday through Friday in the morning, 6 p.m. to 11. Yeah, I put that on Facebook, and that's where a lot of people in my support group that know me connected me. And I thought I hit a gold mine because my one friend, he was I wish I'd learned Spanish a long time ago, but he has caregivers in the Hispanic community, and I know other people that have tapped into that community and have had success with it. You know what I mean? So I had two people, but both of them were in their 60s, I think, and one was already booked, and the other one didn't have a car, and she was in National City, so I didn't follow through on that one.
I'll tell you, the pandemic didn't help causes, because a lot of those caregivers actually went to work in the healthcare industry. because
Right.
of the need. So
Right. Oh, absolutely.
They left the home health part and went into in-house.
Yes,
So,
yes.
So it doesn't make it any easier.
And let me tell you, you know what? You don't have, like, my job is to help students get this, students with disabilities, and not all my students have physical disabilities. And one of the easiest places to place them is in healthcare. You know, I mean, healthcare, I just, you know, you want to work in healthcare, they don't even, you know, a board and care place to start out, they can work their way up from there. They get learned and they get hired. You know, and there's agencies, they hire them to spend the night, you know, like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You know, they get paid that way too. So there's a lot of different ways they can go.
And I'm going to put in the chat box, just
But I saw, you know, on TV, they were talking about retail was talking about how they're having troubles hiring people. And the lady goes, yeah, you know, they fill out the application, but they never show up for the interview. I go, welcome to my world. You know, that's what we do. We get, you know, a lot of people, they'll fill out the application, they'll call you, say, yeah, I'll be here for the interview, and they don't show up. You know, so but you know, that's just people, that's human nature. So it doesn't bother me like it used to. I don't take anything personal. What I do though, I don't want to waste my time or their time. I always schedule, if I'm going to do like interviews, they'll be half hour apart, you know what I mean? So I can get 3 or 4 within an hour, you know, if that, you know. I used to do it like every hour and try to schedule like 6 people, and 4 of them would show up. So now I'm at home for 6 hours. Nah, no more, man. I ain't doing that, man. You know, I got a 2-hour window here, you know, from 9 to 10, or 9 to 11.
yeah. So,
But same way with my agency, they say the same thing, you know, that people come in, apply, you know,
Right.
they actually say they're gonna sign up for the training and all that. They don't even bother showing up, you know.
Right.
So yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
Whether
it's,
personal or agency, you know, it's crazy.
yeah. I have no different challenges than any other employer. It's just a little bit more hard to not take it personal, you know, because I'm the cargo, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, because of how personal it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
gotta kick the tires before you talk about price.
Yeah.
You gotta kick the tires before you talk about price. So
Yeah.
I have friends in my sport group, they go, why do you have troubles with caregivers? I go, have you ever hired one? They said, no. I said, well, why do you ask me that question for if you don't know, you know? I mean, it's a field that, you know, it's very, I mean, you know, it's a lot of turnover. There's a lot of, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it can be really rewarding, Joe, but the downside is sometimes it's the limitation on the number of hours.
Yeah,
Certainly the limitation on what you're probably going to be paid,
yes.
and that you know, I mean, it's not an easy job all the time. I mean, there's some things that
No.
are very easy, and then other aspects of it that aren't. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
You know, like I need colostomy change, the suprapubic catheter, you know, cleaning.
Yep.
So, you know, among other things.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, there's always the, you know, you want somebody that you know is going to be, when they're doing a skin check, that
Yes.
they know what they're looking for, that they're
That's
not going
right.
to say, oh, there's a red spot. Oh, it's just a red spot. Well, yeah,
Right.
today it's a red spot. Guess what? It could be tomorrow. You know? So
Stage 4.
yeah, it's well, you know, we're at our time. I want to thank Bill and Rusty for presenting. I want to thank Dominic for jumping in there and sharing how he goes about things with the agency. This recording will be up by tomorrow. It'll be up on our website, and you know, for people to view that weren't able to join in with us today. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank
Right,
you.
thank you.
Okay, take care.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. All right. And enjoy it.
Yep. Happy Thanksgiving.
I'm just stopping the recording, so don't jump off yet.
Oh, Dominic, you know I'm coming over, right?
We're all coming over. In fact, I'm bringing the kids.
Looking forward to it. Yes.
Take care, everybody.
Life is
I'm-
good.